Welcome to the Light and Shadow podcast. I am a Grey, quantum-informed spiritual mentor, founder of the Ethereus Academy, and a creator of the Alchemical Pattern-to-Healing Framework. I work at the threshold where insight alone stops working and real transformation begins. This is the space for the spiritually aware who are ready to go deeper than healing has taken them. Let me tell you something that has been known and deliberately suppressed for thousands of years. The universe is not made of matter. It is not made of energy in the conventional sense. At its most fundamental level, beneath the atoms, beneath the subatomic particles, beneath the quantum field itself, the universe is made of numbers, not metaphorically, mathematically, structurally, vibrationally. The ancient Pythagoreans, and before them, civilizations whose names history has buried, understood that numbers are not symbols we invented to count things. Numbers are the architecture of reality itself. Each number carries a specific vibrational frequency, a specific quality of consciousness, a specific pattern of how energy moves, organizes, and expresses itself in the material world. And here is what the books they didn't want you to read say. The texts that were suppressed, burned, hidden in private libraries, classified as heresy, deemed too dangerous for public access. Your life is encoded in numbers, and those numbers are talking to you constantly, precisely, through the dates that mark your turning points, the addresses where your life changed, the sequences that keep appearing in your peripheral vision, and the silent numbers that govern events you haven't yet connected to their source. Today we are going deep. Ancient numerology, the vibrational codes of letters and language, the mathematics of the universe, your life path number and what it governs, the secondary number, the silent one, where your major life events are actually detonating. Angel numbers and synchronicity as the universe's direct communication system. And how, once you become conscious of the code, you can begin to work with it rather than be subject to it. This is not casual numerology. This is the system the mystery schools protected, the knowledge the Pythagoreans were initiated into, the mathematics that Kabbalistic scholars encoded into the structure of the Hebrew alphabet, the frequency silence that Tesla pointed toward when he said, if you only knew the magnificence of the 3, 6, and 9, you would have a key to the universe. The key exists, and today we begin to turn it. Now, before we decode your specific numbers, we need to establish the foundation, because without this, numerology looks like superstition. With it, it looks like what it actually is. The most ancient science of vibrational reality. Pythagoras and the secret he wasn't supposed to share. Most people know Pythagoras from the theorem that bears his name. What most people don't know is that the theorem was the least significant thing he ever discovered. Pythagoras spent decades in Egypt and Babylon being initiated into mystery schools that predated Greek civilization by thousands of years. What he brought back was not mathematics as calculation, it was mathematics as metaphysics. The understanding that numbers are living frequencies, that each number has a qualitative essence, and that the entire structure of reality, from planetary orbits to musical harmonics to the human soul, is organized according to numerical law. He taught this in a secret school in Croton. His students took oaths of silence. The knowledge was not for public consumption. When his school was destroyed and his followers killed, much of what he taught went underground, surfacing in fragments in Kabbalistic texts, Hermetic philosophy, Pythagorean brotherhoods of the medieval period, and the books that certain institutions have worked very hard to keep out of circulation. Now, why suppress number theory? Because a person who understands the numerical code of their own life is no longer operating blindly. They can see the pattern, and a person who sees the pattern cannot be as easily controlled by it. Here is the core principle. Every number is a frequency, and every frequency has a specific quality of consciousness associated with it. This is not mystical speculation. Modern physics confirms that everything that exists is vibration. Matter is condensed energy. Energy is vibration. Vibration is mathematically describable. The frequencies that govern atomic structure, planetary motion, biological cycles, and quantum behavior are all expressible as numbers. What the ancients understood, and what we are only beginning to scientifically rediscover, is that these same numerical frequencies operate at the level of consciousness. That the number 1 carries the quality of initiation, singularity, and will. That the number 9 carries the quality of completion, dissolution, and universal consciousness. That these are not arbitrary associations. They are descriptions of how specific frequencies actually behave in reality. The ancient Hebrew Kabbalists encoded an entire cosmology into the structure of the Hebrew alphabet through a system called gematria, where each letter carries a numerical value, and the numerical value of words, names, and phrases reveals their deeper vibrational meaning. This is not unique to Hebrew. Sanskrit, Greek, Arabic, the sacred alphabets of the world's oldest traditions all encode arbitrary symbols created for convenience. They were designed by someone in some civilization whose origins we cannot fully trace to carry specific vibrational codes. When you write your name in any language, you are writing a frequency signature. The letters combine into numbers. The numbers combine into a vibrational profile. And that profile describes, with remarkable precision, the quality of consciousness you came into this life carrying. Now, Tesla, who understood electromagnetism at a level that still exceeds mainstream science, said, if you only knew the magnificence of the 3, 6, and 9, you would have a key to the universe. He was not speaking poetically, he was pointing to something he had discovered in his work with electromagnetic frequencies. That 3, 6, and 9 form a closed loop of energy that underlies the structure of the universe. Vortex mathematics, developed later by Marco Rodin, demonstrates that these numbers never appear in the doubling sequence of binary mathematics, but instead govern the flow of energy through it. The Asians knew this. They built it into their sacred architecture. The measurements of the pyramids, the geometry of temples, the proportions of sacred spaces, all encoded with 3, 6, and 9 and their derivatives. The universe speaks mathematics, and it is speaking to you in the numbers that appear in your life with a precision and intentionality that once you begin to recognize it, cannot be unseen. Now let's get personal, because this knowledge only becomes transformative when it stops being abstract and starts being about your specific life. So how to calculate your life path number? Your life path number is calculated from your full date of birth. It is the most significant number in your numerological profile. The primary frequency you came into this life to work with, express, and master. Now here's the calculation. Add all the digits of your birth date, month, day, and full year, and reduce to a single digit. Exception, if your reduction produces 11, 22, or 33, you have to stop. These are master numbers and are not reduced further. For example, you're born, let's say, November 7, 1991. So 11 is 1 plus 1 equal 2. 7 is the date. 1991, you reduce it until it becomes 2. So the total, 7 plus 3 plus 2, this is 11. Here you stop. This is a master number. Now, if it was 1990, then the whole thing is going to be 10 instead of 11. So 1 plus 0, this is 1. So now calculate yours, and as I go through each number, find yourself in this. For life path number 1, it's the pioneer. You came here to lead, to initiate, to build something from nothing through the force of original will. Your life will repeatedly present you with circumstances that require you to go first, before the path is clear, before the support arrives, before permission is granted. Where things end and transform, at every point where you try to follow rather than lead, where you subsume your original vision into someone else's framework. Life path 1 individuals experience collapse precisely when they have betrayed their own authority. Now, where things unfold is when you stop waiting for consensus and act from the singular knowing that is your birthright. Life path number 2, that's a bridge. You came here to unite, to harmonize, to perceive what others cannot. The subtle, the emotional, the energetic undercurrent beneath surface appearance. Your gifts are relational, intuitive, and receptive. Where things end and transform is at every point where you lose yourself in another, where the gift of sensitivity becomes the wound of self-erasure. Life path number 2s experience their most devastating collapses at the conjunction of codependency, when they have given so completely that nothing of themselves remains. Now, where things unfold, when you learn that sensitivity is power, that your ability to perceive what is unseen is not weakness, but a specific form of intelligence the world cannot function without. Now, life path number 3, the creator. You came here to express, to speak, to create, to bring into form what exists first in the imagination. The number 3 is the first number that creates something new. 1 is the point. 2 is the line. 3 is the first shape, the first plane, the first possibility of a world. Now, where things end and transform. At every point of creative suppression, when you silence yourself for approval, when you perform instead of express, when you scatter your creative energy across too many surfaces to avoid the discipline of going deep in one direction. Now, where things unfold, when you commit to the specific expression only you can offer and stop diluting it for palatability. Life path number 4, the architect. You came here to build, to create structures, physical, organizational, conceptual, that endure. The number 4 is a square, the foundation, the stable geometry on which everything else rests. Now, where things end and transform, at every point where rigidity masquerades as stability, where the structures you have built in your life, your identity, your relationships become prisons rather than foundations. Life path number 4s experience collapse when they mistake the structure for the purpose. Now, where things unfold, when you bring your extraordinary capacity for order and endurance into service of something that actually matters and allow flexibility within the structure. Life path number 5, the liberator. You came here to experience, to question, to move, and to model freedom for others. The number 5 is the center of the single-digit sequence, the pivot point, the place of maximum movement and possibility. Where things end and transform is at every point where freedom becomes escape, where the genuine hunger for experience tips into avoidance of depth, commitment, or consequence. Life path number 5s hit their hardest walls when they have confused liberation with running. Now, where things unfold, when you bring your extraordinary capacity for freedom into relationship with genuine commitment and discover that freedom chosen within constraint is more expensive than freedom that runs from everything. Now, life path number 6, the nurturer. You came here to love, to heal, to create a beauty and harmony in the spaces you inhabit. The number 6 is the number of the home, the family, the heart, the frequency of unconditional care made tangible. Now, where things end and transform, at every point where love becomes control, where the desire to nurture tips into the need to fix, to perfect, to manage the lives of those who you love because their suffering is intolerable to you. Where things unfold is when you learn the difference between love as presence and love as project. When you can hold someone in pain, in their pain, without trying to resolve it for them. Life path number 7, the mystic. You came here to seek, to go beneath the surface of everything, every idea, every system, every person, in search of the truth underneath. The number 7 is the number of spiritual inquiry and solitude, of the inner world as primary. Now, where things end and transform, at every point where seeking becomes isolation, where the genuine hunger for depth becomes a justification for disconnection, where the mind that can penetrate any mystery turns into skepticism on the possibility of a genuine human connection. Now, where things unfold, when you bring your extraordinary inner world into relationship, when you allow what you discover in solitude to nourish rather than separate you from the people you love. Life path number 8, the alchemist of power. You came here to master the material world, not to accumulate it, but to understand and wield the forces of power, resources, and manifestation with integrity. The number 8 is infinity in vertical form. The unending flow of energy between the spiritual and the material. Where things end and transform is when, at every point where power is sought as compassionate for a felt powerlessness, where material achievement is used to fill a spiritual void, where the extraordinary capacity for manifestation is applied to acquiring rather than creating. Where things unfold is when you align your material power with your spiritual understanding, when what you build in the world is a direct expression of what you know to be true about reality. Life path number 9, the completion. You came here to complete a cycle, to synthesize, to release, to serve the collective with the wisdom accumulated across lifetimes. The number 9 contains all previous numbers, 1 through 8, and dissolves them into universal consciousness. Where things end and transform is everywhere and always, because the solution is your curriculum. The life path number 9 will experience more endings than any other number. More losses, more releases, more completion. And that's not a punishment. This is the nature of the frequency you carry. Now, where things unfold is when you stop fighting the endings and recognize them as a primary mechanism of your revolution. When you understand that your losses are initiations and that what you release creates space for something more aligned with who you are becoming. Now, for the master numbers, 11, 22, and 33. So if your life path reduces to 11, 22, or 33, you carry a master number. These are amplified frequencies. Double the power, double the challenge, double the potential impact. 11 is the master intuitive, the channel, the visionary, the one whose perception operates beyond ordinary human bandwidth. The challenge is managing the intensity of the frequency without collapsing into anxiety or self-doubt. 22 is the master builder, the one who can translate the highest vision into the most concrete form, the architect of the possible. Their challenge is the weight of knowing what could be while navigating the limitation of what currently is. 33 is the master teacher, the rarest of the master numbers. Pure compassionate service. The challenge is learning that you cannot save everyone and that your service is more powerful when it comes from wholeness rather than sacrifice. Now let's enter the territory that most numerology never touches. And this is where the suppressed knowledge becomes most relevant. In the ancient texts, the ones that circulated in mystery schools, that were copied by hand and hidden in private libraries, that were deemed too precise in their power to be made publicly available, there is a consistent teaching about what I'll call the primary number and the shadow number. Your life path is your primary number, the frequency you are consciously working with, the theme of your incarnation. But beneath it, hidden in the mathematics of your birth date, before the final reduction, is a secondary number, a shadow frequency. And that is where the real detonations happen. Now, how to find your shadow number? Return to your birth date calculation. Before you make the final reduction to your life path, look at the number you had one step earlier. Now, using our example, the total before final reduction was 10. 10 reduces to 1. That is the life path. But 10 itself, the number before the reduction, is the shadow number. In other systems, the shadow number is found on the day of birth alone, or in the specific compound numbers that appear in the calculation before reduction. What matters is this principle. The compound number, the unreduced number in your calculation, carries a specific frequency that operates beneath the surface of your life. It is the number of events rather than identity. Where your life path describes who you are, your shadow number describes where things happen. Here's what the ancient texts describe, and what becomes undeniable once you begin tracking it in your own life. Major life events cluster around dates, ages, and addresses that reduce your shadow number. The relationship that ended, the job that began, the move that changed everything, the loss that broke you open, the unexpected arrival that redirected your path. Go back and look. Reduce the dates of your significant life events to single digits. Look at the ages at which your turning points occurred. Reduce them. Look at the house numbers of places where major transitions unfolded. Reduce them. You will find the same number appearing with a frequency that cannot be coincidental. This is mathematics. The frequency of your shadow number creates a specific resonance field, and events of maximum significance tend to organize around the moments when that frequency is most active in your timeline. So the shadow number operates beneath conscious awareness for most people because no one has told them to look for it. Most people move through their lives experiencing major events without the context to understand why those particular moments, why those particular ages, why those particular places occur. Now, consciousness is the differentiator. The person who doesn't know about the shadow number is subject to it. They experience its detonations as random, as fate, as luck or curse. The person who knows it can begin to track it, to anticipate the windows of maximum significance and meet them with intention, rather than being ambushed by them. So once you identify your shadow number, you can begin to map it forward as well as backward. Look ahead at coming years, months, and dates that reduce your shadow number. These are windows of heightened significance, not necessarily crisis, but inflection points. Moments when the energetic conditions are ripe for major movement in your life. Prepare rather than react. The person who knows a powerful window is approaching can bring intention to it, can make the move, begin the project, end the relationship, initiate the healing, rather than waiting for circumstances to force the change. Now, the ancient practice described in texts I have studied that predate most known numerological traditions involved mapping these windows years in advance and performing specific ritual, meditation, and intentional action during those periods to consciously direct the energy of the detonation rather than simply experiencing it. You are not a passenger in your own life's mathematics. You are the mathematician once you know the equation. Now let's talk about the layer of numerical communication that most people have had some experience with, even if they hadn't, or even if they didn't have the framework to fully understand it. The angel numbers. What are they? The term angel numbers has become so mainstream that it has lost some of its precision. Let me give it back. Angel numbers are not decoration. They are not a spiritual aesthetic. They are not something you notice because you are looking for them. They are targeted, frequency-specific communications from the intelligence that operates the quantum field. Call it the universe, your higher self, your guides, source intelligence, delivered through the medium that the ancient texts identified as the universe's primary language, number. The reason you see 1111 repeatedly is not because you notice clocks. You notice clocks. Specifically, you notice those clocks because your attention is being directed there. So the intelligence behind synchronicity does not work through coincidence. It works through resonance. Your fields and the fields of that number are in alignment at that moment, and the alignment is trying to communicate something specific. Now let me go through the most significant Asian number sequences and what they are actually communicating, not in a generic way most resources present them, but with the precision the Asian tradition carries. Now, 1111, 111, this is the initiation signal. The frequency of pure potentiality activating. When 1111 appears, the field is signaling that a new cycle is opening. Your thoughts and intentions are unusually potent right now. What you are holding in consciousness is moving toward manifestation with greater speed and force than usual. This is not a comfort signal. It is an urgency signal. What are you thinking? What are you believing? Because those thoughts are seeds entering extraordinarily fertile ground. Now the 222 or 2222, this is the trust signal. The frequency of divine timing and relational alignment. When 222 appears, the field is signaling what you are building to is supported. The unseen structure is being assembled beneath the surface. You cannot see the full picture yet, but it is coherent. So trust the process you cannot fully observe. This appears most powerfully in moments of doubt. Not to dismiss your concern, but to remind you that the invisible framework is more solid than it currently appears. Now the 333 or the 3333, the creative activation signal, this is the frequency of the Trinity. Creation, the expression, and the divine creative force. When 333 appears, the field is signaling the creative energy is fully available. The channel is open. What you have been hesitating to express, to create, to bring into form, now is the activation window. It is also the number of the ascended teachers and masters. Their frequency is accessible to you at this moment. Now the 444 or the 4444, this is the foundational signal, the frequency of divine architecture and protection. When 444 appears, the field is signaling you are held. The foundation beneath you is real, even when circumstances feel unstable. You are being supported by forces and intelligences that are not visible but are absolutely present. This number appears most frequently in moments of fear or uncertainty, not as dismissal of the fear, but as information that the ground is more solid than the fear suggests. Now the 555 or the 5555, this is the change signal. frequency of transformation in motion. When 555 appears, the field is signaling a significant change is already in motion, whether or not it is yet visible in your external circumstances. Resistance is futile and costly. Alignment is available and liberating. The question is not whether this change is coming. It is whether you will meet it consciously or be surprised by it. This is one of the most important signals to take seriously because it precedes rather than accompanies change. The 666, the rebalancing signal. This number has been so thoroughly demonized by one religious tradition that most people flinch at it, which is itself interesting. Why would a specific number be targeted for cultural terror? The frequency of 666 in its original pre-distortion meaning is a signal of material spiritual rebalancing. When it appears, the field is signaling your attention has over-indexed on the material, on external outcomes, on what others think, on circumstances and appearances, at the expense of the inner work. Come back to the center. Rebalance. The material will reflect the internal correction. It is not a warning of evil. It is a call to realignment. 777 or 7777. This is the alignment signal. The frequency of spiritual precision and divine alignment. When 777 appears, the field is signaling you're exactly where you are supposed to be. The path you are on is correct. The choices you have been making are in alignment with your soul's purpose. Continue. Don't doubt it. Don't doubt this. This is the universe's clearest nod of approval. The signal that says, yes, this direction, keep going. Now the 888 or 8888, this is the abundance signal. The frequency of infinite flow. The number 8 is infinity made vertical. The unending circulation of energy between realms. When 888 appears, the field is signaling the flow of abundance, material, creative, or spiritual, is available and moving in your direction. The question is whether you are open to receive it or whether your beliefs about worthiness are creating a dam. This is not a guarantee of money. It is a signal that the energetic conditions for flow are present. And what you do with your consciousness in this window determines whether they materialize. Now the 999 or the 9999, which is the completion signal, the frequency of cycle completion and universal love. When 999 appears, the field is signaling something is complete. A chapter, a relationship, a version of yourself, or a belief system. Something has reached its natural end system. What is complete cannot be revived, and trying to do so delays what is ready to begin. This is simultaneously the most liberating and the most uncomfortable signal, because completion requires release. Angel numbers are the most visible layer of a much deeper synchronicity architecture. The universe communicates through number at every scale, not just in repeated sequences on clocks, but in dates that carry the same energy. The day you received a life-changing call, the date of an accident that redirected everything, the day you met the person who changed your path. Reduce those dates, find their frequency. You will begin to see the pattern. House and address numbers. The places where you have lived carry specific frequencies. The house where you thrived, the apartment where you fell apart, the office where everything came together. The address numbers carry the vibrational resonance and quality of what happened there, not by accident. Again, by resonance. You were drawn to those addresses because their frequency matched what your soul needed to experience in that period. Recurring numbers in peripheral visions. The receipt total that keeps appearing. The page you always open to. The time you wake without an alarm. These are not random. They are the universe speaking in the only language that penetrates every distraction, the language of pattern. The texts I have encountered, texts that circulated among initiated scholars for thousands of years before being systematically suppressed, describe a practice of conscious number engagement. The understanding that when a significant number appears, the correct response is not just passive recognition, but active intentional dialogue with the frequency. When 1111 appears, you don't just notice it and move on. You stop. You become conscious of what you are thinking in that moment. You bring your most aligned intention into focus. You are working with the portal of heightened manifestation potential. When 555 appears, you don't just note change is coming. You ask, where in my life is change trying to happen that I have been resisting? And you make the conscious choice to align with it rather than brace against it. The universe is not broadcasting into empty space. It is in dialogue with your consciousness. The numbers are not messages to receive passively. They are invitations to engage actively. Here is the teaching that the suppressed texts most consistently return to, and the one that makes the knowledge dangerous to any system that requires a human passivity. Once you become conscious of the numerical code operating in your life, you are no longer simply subject to it. You can begin to work with it. Most people experience numerical patterns the way they experience weather. Things that happen to them, patterns they notice after the fact, forces that shape their lives without their participation. Now, the ancient practitioners, the Pythagoreans, the Kabbalists, the initiated numerologists of Babylon and Egypt understood it differently. They understood that consciousness interacts with the numerical field, that awareness of a frequency creates a different quality of relationship with it than unconsciousness does. The person who does not know their shadow number experiences its detonations as fate. The person who knows it can meet those windows with intention. This is the reversal, not of the mathematics. The mathematics does not change, actually, but of your relationship to it. From passenger to navigator, from subject to co-author. So when you identify a number that has been operating silently in your life, a number whose frequency keeps appearing at your turning points, whose quality keeps showing up as the theme of your most significant experiences, the reversal work involves 3 movements. First, acknowledgement. You recognize the pattern consciously and completely. You go back through your life and document where this frequency has appeared, in dates, in addresses, in ages, in the numbers of people or situations present at your inflection points. You make the invisible visible. Second, dialogue. You enter into conscious relationship with the frequency. You meditate with it. You work with its vibrational quality intentionally, using the number in your practices, your intentions, your creative work. You stop being surprised by it and start recognizing it as a signal that you are in a window of significance. Third is intention setting in the window. When you know a window governed by your significant number is approaching, like a date, a year, a cycle that reduces to that frequency, you bring maximum intentionality to it. You make the moves you have been postponing. You initiate what you have been preparing for. You release what the frequency is calling you to release. The universe's windows don't wait. They open and close according to the mathematics of time. The person who knows the windows can walk through them deliberately. The person who doesn't know is still affected by them. But as a passenger, not as a navigator. Let me leave you with something that will not let you look at numbers the same way again. The universe is not silent. It has never been silent. It has been speaking to you in its native language, the language of numbers, of frequency, of mathematical pattern, since the moment you were born. Your life path number is not a personality label. It is a vibrational curriculum, the specific frequency you came into this life to master, express, and eventually transcend. Every place Where your life has ended, transformed, or unfolded with unexpected force has been governed by the mathematics of your soul's signature. Your shadow number has been detonating your most significant moments without your awareness. Not randomly, but with the precise, impersonal intelligence of a universe that is always working towards your evolution, whether you are participating consciously or not. The agent numbers appearing in your peripheral vision are not decoration, they are direct transmissions, targeted, frequency specific communications from the intelligence of the quantum field, using the universe's own language to get your attention, to warn you, to confirm your alignment, to signal what is moving in the invisible before it appears in the visible. And the dates, the house numbers, the receipts, the page numbers, the times you wake up at 3 a.m., these are not coincidences. There are no coincidences in a universe made of mathematics. There are only patterns you have not yet recognized, and patterns you have. The difference between those two states is not intelligence. It is not special ability. It is simply awareness. Awareness is the reversal. Once you see the code, once you understand that your life has been unfolding according to a precise numerical intelligence that you can learn to read, you stop being a passenger in your own story. You become a conscious participant in a dialogue that has been happening since your birth. The universe has been speaking to you in numbers your entire life. The question is simply, are you ready to listen? And most importantly, are you ready to answer? If what we explore today is activating something deep in you, if you want to go further into decoding the specific numerical frequencies operating in your life and learn to work with them consciously, this is part of the deeper work available through the Alchemical Pattern-to-Healing Framework. My private mentorship and session information is at the link in the show notes below. Until next time.